So, in today's presentation, we're going to be talking about the poem Touch and Go by Stevie Smith. And this is all about humans and how we try to improve and progress, but don't always make it. And at first glance, it seems quite simple. It's just about a man trying to find his way out of the mountains. But it's important to realize that the man here represents all of humanity. Now, Stevie Smith was a British poet who tended to focus on fairly negative, gloomy material. Her most famous poem you may have heard of, called Not Waving But Drowning, is a good example of this. And this poem, Touch and Go, has a similarly darkly comic feel. Now, a really good word to understand at the start of this is allegory, and this is when a story represents something else. Here, a lonely man tries to get out of the mountains, but finds it really hard going. The bigger picture, or the bigger story, is how people as a whole struggle sometimes to progress and always seem to be held back. Now, the poem was first published in 1950, just after the Second World War ended, so for some context, at the time, Smith and others may well have wondered what was wrong with people and if civilization was really improving after so many years of destruction and death. So let's take a listen to the poem and then go into it in more detail. Touch and Go. Man is coming out of the mountains, but his tail is caught in the pass. Why does he not free himself? Is he not an ass? Do not be impatient with him, he is bowed with passion and fret. He is not out of the mountains, he is not half out yet. Look at his sorrowful eyes, his torn cheeks, his brow. He lies with his head in the dust. Is there no one to help him now? No, there is no one to help him. Let him get on with it, cry the ancient enemies of man as they cough and spit. The enemies of man are like trees. They stand with the sun in the branches. Is there no one to help my creature where he languishes? Ah, the delicate creature. He lies with his head in the rubble. Pray that the moment pass and the trouble. Look, he moves. That is more than a prayer, but he is so slow. Will he come out of the mountains? It is touch and go. So let's have a look through this in a bit more detail now. So in the first two stanzas, we see a man emerging from the mountains and see what he's trying to do. The mountains obviously represent a huge place that's difficult to navigate. But despite this, he is coming out. But almost as soon as we meet him, he gets stuck. Smith gives us this strange image of the man getting his tail caught in the pass, which is a route through the mountains. The tail here represents how we're all basically animals. So does this mean the tail or his primitive nature will always hold him back, even if he wants to break free? Are we always held back from doing good things because of our more base instincts? Well, the speaker jumps in here, wondering why he doesn't do something to break free, even suggesting that he may be an ass, here meaning a stupid donkey. It's all a bit weird at this point. We've got this allegorical image of a guy walking free from the mountains, then awkwardly getting his tail stuck, which creates a slightly comical image. The speaker continues to give opinions in the second stanza, urging us not to hassle the man too much. We should appreciate that he's bowed with passion and fret. In other words, he's having a really hard time. It's a short step from this to imagine it could refer to all people who all have problems at some point in their lives. The speaker is certainly heavily involved here, and the anaphora or repetition of the phrase "he is" helps us understand the problems and the struggle to get away from these mountains. Note also that there are no clues about where these mountains are, meaning they are quite generic and could be anywhere. Therefore, the man's struggle could also take place anywhere and to anyone. Now, in the third stanza, we get a closer look at the man. By using the imperative look, we're told to see his sorrowful eyes, torn cheeks, and brow, all parts of his face. Brow is the only one not to get an adjective to explain its appearance, so we can fill in the gap as a reader and assume the man is suffering. These phrases make him seem more human and relatable, though the line, "he lies with his head in the dust," does make him look more animal-like again. To some critics, there's an allusion here or an indirect reference to Christ. Smith wasn't religious at all, but she does seem to give a nod here to the story of the crucifixion and suffering of Jesus. Now, the Roman governor who approved of Christ's killing said "ecce homo," or "see the man," when a beaten up Jesus was shown to the crowd. And this reference was taken up by many artists later on to show how Christ suffered for everyone. The man's face is in the dust, which could also be a reminder of paintings that show the day Christ died, because in one of these moments, he's included seeing as him falling over and being dragged along to the crucifixion site. So is Smith comparing the man to Jesus? Well, in some ways, the imagery is very much an allusion to this, although the speaker did just call the man an ass, which you don't tend to get in any of the older classical art. Now, when the speaker asks, "Is there no one to help me now?" this also sounds like a reference to Jesus, who is said to cry out to the Lord, his Father, "Why do you forsake me?" when on the cross. And despite this, he seems to be a normal man with the weight of the world on his shoulders. And it's also not clear quite yet who would actually come to help him or what they would actually do even, because he seems quite alone. Now, in stanza 4, we do get to hear some new voices, but they're not very helpful. Smith reverses the usual word order here to first introduce the line, "Let him get on with it," which suggests it's the speaker talking. But the next line reveals it's the ancient enemies of man who cough and spit out this advice. But who are these enemies of man? Well, that's not made quite clear yet, but they don't sound like they're going to be much help in the struggle to improve. Now, Smith offers a few more answers to this question in the 5th stanza. We start with a simile, learning that they are like trees that stand with the sun in the branches. That makes them sound like they've been around a long time and they're connected to the landscape and the mountains. They're not going anywhere and are stuck, maybe rooted is a better verb, to this place. They don't want to change, and it doesn't sound like they're keen for anyone else to change too. So this symbolises how people can be reluctant to move forwards and stay with what they know. It's also worth pausing here to describe these enemies in more detail. They seem to be quite happy to laze in the warmth of the sun. It's an easy life, so why bother trying to change? And why do they cough and spit when we first see them? Well, coughing and spitting suggests they're diseased in some way and could pass on this negativity to the man. Coughing and spitting could be contagious after all. We move away from them as the speaker looks for help elsewhere, pleading, "Is there no one to help my creature where he languishes?" By calling the man my creature, this evokes a sense of compassion, but also ownership. If the speaker owns or made this man, why aren't they doing something to help? If we think back to our allegory, maybe Smith is suggesting that even if God did make all of us, it doesn't mean that God is going to step in and help us. And next, the speaker shows a more sympathetic tone for the man as they exclaim, "Ah, the delicate creature, he lies with his head in the rubble." The man is back lying in the soil, but now he's described as delicate, which suggests he could be broken easily, not quite what we expected at the start when he was walking out from the mountains. That's quite a long way from the ass suggested earlier on. It makes us feel more sorry for him, although he still hasn't moved on. The speaker uses another imperative here, pray. And that's a clear signal that we should appeal to God for help, as it appears no other kind of help is coming. The final line here, "and the trouble," is also shorter than the rest with just 2 beats, maybe signalling that the speaker is giving up hope and a prayer is the only thing left. Now, in the final stanza, we're again told what to do. In this case, we look as the man finally moves. Now, this movement may be slow, those long vowel sounds and the alliteration of "so slow" really emphasize this. But it's more effective than the prayer, suggesting God isn't responsible for human achievements. We go back roughly to where we started, but this time the speaker is asking if he will actually come out or not. The answer is very uncertain, as we're told it's touch and go, which is a phrase meaning there's no definite answer. They may do, but we can't be sure. It's not a very reassuring end, but it does match the darkly comic tone from earlier. Now, the man, or all humanity, has been described as an ass and Christ, but ultimately it looks like it's up to them how or if they will be free from these mountains. There's quite a lot of symbolism in this poem, so let's take a look at this. The man is the most obvious symbol. He represents all of the humans who want to get out of the dark mountains, but his animal instincts and our reluctance to change may stop this. It's clearly a huge challenge, and there's little help offered on this journey, making us feel empathy for his plight. Mountains tend to be hard to get over or past, and so represent the obstacles that all humans face. The mountains are also where the animals live and so symbolise our most basic of instincts, a place where we can remain but not evolve. The speaker is also a symbol for us as onlookers who watch people struggle and wonder if there is any reason to hope for a better future. They start by insulting the man but end up showing great sympathy, a sign that change is possible. Now, finally, let's have a look at the structure here. The poem is made up of quatrains or four-line stanzas and has an ABCB rhyme scheme, which is usually what we call a ballad. The meter has three stressed beats in a line, but they aren't in any real pattern known as an accentual meter, which makes it feel a bit more jarring at times. It also gives a sense that we don't know where this is going, much like the man on his strange journey. To get a feel for this, try clapping out the last stanza on the stressed parts. Look, he moves, that is more than a prayer, but he is so slow. Will he come out of the mountains? It's touch and go. It's a bit of a mess in terms of the meter, but Smith knows what she's doing as this irregular meter matches the man's kind of stumbling steps. There's also a lot of repetition here. Smith mentions the man going out of the mountains 3 times as we stay with the scene and feel the man's struggle, not knowing whether he will actually get out. And by constantly asking this, we get a sense that the speaker is not sure of the outcome at all, and this creates tension and suspense. The speaker also repeats their call for help, which makes it clear that the man is alone on this journey and nobody else can assist him. This also creates tension as there's no sign of help or even certainty about what will happen. So there we have it. Slightly strange poem or story of one man's struggle to escape from the primitive mountains and develop. Prayers don't seem to help, suggesting the limits of faith, but eventually he starts to move towards progress. Maybe. Many thanks for listening.